Hello YouTube, this is Ashman72, here tonight to ask you a question. Well, it's really more of a plea. Can somebody please tell me why Lee Strobel is so very popular amongst Christians? I don't understand it, the man's an idiot. For those of you lucky enough to have never heard of him, Lee Strobel is a former atheist and reporter turned Christian apologist. He's written several books, but is most famous for his The Case For series, wherein he allegedly examines serious objections to aspects of the Christian faith and then proceeds to ultimately find them without merit. He's up to 6 books in that series right now, with another 4 books aimed at kids, and unfortunately he shows no signs of stopping. I have not read all of his works, and I'm not going to pretend that I have, but I have read a couple of them. The reason is, for some reason, my Christian friends seem to love them so much, and I wanted to find out what the big deal was. I'm still wondering. Basically, at least for this, as far as the stuff that I've read goes, and I've confined myself to the Case For series because that's what I keep hearing about. Basically, his formula is this. He starts with some objections to the Christian faith, and then he turns them over to other apologists. Sometimes they're famous people like Ravi Zacharias or William Lane Craig, but he also goes to a number of lesser-known figures as well, and he even includes people that are not actual apologists. But basically, once he's done matching up an objection to an apologist, he interviews the apologist, who then proceeds to allegedly completely dismantle the objection. It's a novel enough format, sure, I'll give him that. And I don't think I'd find him any worse than any other apologist, except for one little thing. It's his shtick. He keeps going on about the fact that he's a reporter and he used to be an atheist, and it's not just something he brings up once or twice a book, but he keeps going back to that. It's an attempt to make himself look credible, obviously. But no, I'm sorry, no. It's simply untrue. Now, he does have a definite slant, and he's not bothering to hide it, which is not unusual amongst reporters, but the simple fact is that his journalism is terrible. Okay, in his first book, The Case for Christ, get this. He spends an entire chapter interviewing a medical doctor about the evidence of Jesus' death upon the cross. I repeat, he spends an entire chapter interviewing a medical doctor concerning the evidence of Jesus' death upon the cross. Do I even have to make fun of that? Oh, but it gets better. Also in that book, he interviews a psychiatrist. Yes, I realize the joke tells itself, but anyway, he interviews the psychiatrist about Jesus' mental state and whether or not Jesus was really crazy. What kind of a... Oh, God, the bleeding stupid. What can you get from... Oh, man, it's just so terrible. But sometimes the badness is more subtle. In that same book, he spends an entire chapter critiquing the findings of the Jesus Seminar. If you haven't heard of the Jesus Seminar, it's a group of biblical scholars who have examined the New Testament and believe that the picture of Jesus as painted by the Christian tradition doesn't really match up with the historical figure of Jesus. It's a pretty controversial group for obvious reasons, and if Strobel wants to critique them, in my opinion, he can go right ahead. But the problem is that he doesn't bother ever interviewing anybody from the seminar itself. No. he goes straight to interviewing a gentleman by the name of Gregory Boyd, who happens to be one of their most vocal critics. Basically, it's what you might call Fox journalism. You know, fair and balanced. Yeah. And unfortunately, that was his first book. His second book is The Case for Faith, which I have also read, and he doesn't really get much better in that one either. I'll give you an example. He interviews Ravi Zacharias about whether or not it's offensive to claim that Jesus is the only road to salvation. You know, seeing how Zacharias does touch on that more than once in his writings that I've seen. But they, over the course of the interview, they get to the notion of non-Christians who are demonstrably good people, and the example is given of Mahatma Gandhi, and Strobel asks Zacharias whether or not he believes that Gandhi is in hell right now. And I will give Strobel a little bit of credit. He doesn't drop the issue right away. But Zacharias, and this is going to shock you, I'm sure, just feeds him a complete line of bullshit about how people must recognize that they've fallen short of God's graces, and only God, through Jesus, is salvation, blah, 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 blah. Well, basically, of course, if you can penetrate the bullshit, and it's not that hard, the answer is yes. But Zacharias doesn't ever actually come out and say it, and Strobel just accepts that without any sort of comment, either to Zacharias or to the reader. And I'm sorry, but I think that's nonsense. No atheist would just take that. Any good reporter that I know would try harder to get a clear answer. I mean, I'm sorry, but I cannot see how anybody who is genuinely interested in the truth would act in the way that Lee Strobel does. But that's the way he keeps presenting himself, that he is after the truth. And for some reason, I have yet to meet a Christian who's able to see through him. I don't understand this. It's really pissing me off, you know? So if anybody has anything to say on the subject, please, I'm all ears. Anyway, this is Ashman72 signing off. Thank you for your time, and here's to a gay, geeky, and godless tomorrow.